What's up, everybody? Before we get to talking about the zombie apocalypse that is here and how bad it's going to get, how much worse actually, let's just talk about YouTube censorship for a second. Because I'm sure some of you have noticed that you go to one of my videos and it'll say 5, 7 comments, but you only see one or two. Unless you're just an absolute dipshit and you're contributing nothing except grief, I don't erase comments. What happens is, well, you know what happens. Censorship. A lot of the comments will show up in my studio, like temporarily. I'll be able to respond to them, and maybe then they'll disappear, maybe they won't, but they're never visible to me when I go to watch the video or go into the comment section under the video. Some of them I never get to see, and some of them get held. And I just wanted to show you what the threshold is, right? DJ Projectus says, quote, YouTube has had erased one comment and shadowed another one. Incredible censorship. Now 3 comments are shadowed. I never saw the other 2 he's talking about. Or, what, 3? I never, so this would be 4, I guess. I never saw the 3 comments he's referring to, if indeed that's what it is. And this one was held, right? Why? Because he's talking about censorship? Or the fact that YouTube shadows comments? Even that is not allowed these days. Not on this channel. I see these types of comments on other channels. Not on this one, though, you know? And that's obviously because I am pro Kamala Harris, a Biden shill, and all this other stupid shit, you know what I mean? That's obviously why. Anyway, it is what it is. Check this out.
There was a new admission by Boris Johnson that this could have all been solved in April 2022.
Massive brain fog, bro.
22.
He's talking about the Russo-Ukrainian war. Could have been solved, according to Boris Johnson, in 2022. I mean, it could have been solved. It could have never started. It could have been solved as soon as it started. It could have been solved right before it started. It could have been solved yesterday. It can be solved tomorrow. All you got to do is just capitulate Ukraine, and there'll be no more war. Well, except in Poland, the Baltics, and so on and so forth, right? With a 2 million man fucking army. Jesus Christ.
Am I right?
You're right. Now, recall when Zelensky had that meltdown in the White House.
Are these real people? Are these like AI-generated figures, or are they like cyborgs or something? What is going on here? Maybe they both gotta go take a shit or something. Preferably together.
When J.D. Vance said we should be engaging in diplomacy, and Zelensky said, what kind of diplomacy are you talking about, J.D.? And to make his case, Zelensky invoked the December 2019 agreement that he signed with Putin in Paris. And then he said it was Putin that did not live up to that agreement, which include.
Okay, so we're conflating 2022 and 2019. What are we talking about here?
A prisoner exchange, and also implementing, finally, the long-stalled Minsk Accords, which was the pact brokered to bring an end to the fighting that erupted after the 2014 Maidan coup. And Zelensky said it was Putin that didn't live up to that agreement that they signed in December 2019. Well, Boris Johnson just gave an interview where he acknowledged that the problem that Zelensky faced was not Russia, was not Putin. It was Ukrainians. It was Ukrainian ultranationalists, the far right, the fascists, who stood in the way.
That's what Boris Johnson said, right? It was the fascists, the Ukrainian fascists. That's what he said.
And Boris Johnson, in a rare moment of accuracy, spilled the truth about exactly what the problem was.
You got to remember that Volodymyr Zelensky is not he's not an unreasonable guy. He got elected really as a peacenik. He was out there.
Not an unreasonable guy. That just Doesn't matter, right? To these two clowns.
You know, 2019, he tried to do a deal with Putin. I know, as far as I can remember, his basic problem was that the Ukrainian nationalists couldn't accept the compromise, and you can see why not.
Did anybody hear him say Nazis or fascists, or does it even matter? Communists?
I can remember that.
So there you go. He's accurately saying it was not Russia that was the problem in implementing that peace deal that Zelensky signed with Putin. It was Ukrainian nationalists.
Did he say anything of that sort? Did he say Russia was not a problem? He never said any of that, right? It was who?
By which he means the ultra-right fascists, including.
That's what he means, right? That's what Boris means. And I mean, how can you be more dishonest than this? Just like a complete, obvious spin with blatant lies, conflating two different peace deals, I guess, agreements, throwing Minsk in there too for good measure. And people in the comment section, it's just unanimously, Boris Johnson, evil. Boris killed millions of people. Hitler, right? I mean, would this be the hysterical left or right? What's the difference? There is no difference, really. If you just zoom out a little bit, there is no difference. It's all just easily triggerable, emotional children who lack basic critical thinking skills, don't care about truth, don't know when they're being lied right to their face. Boris Johnson is a disgraced politician who's had a lot of controversy when it comes to domestic politics and also Ukraine. He's been a controversial figure. To a lot of people, maybe most people, it doesn't matter what he does, what he doesn't do. As soon as he's involved in something, it's just people have already made their minds up, right? They don't trust him, except when he says what they think they want to hear because it's misinterpreted by a couple of shills online, AI bots. Then he's somehow credible and incredible at the same time, and I don't even know. It doesn't make any sense. But this is part of this ongoing effort by the New World Order, in my opinion, to discredit all the politicians, at least the ones that they don't like, to discredit democracy, so that they give you a dictator. You beg for a dictator, and you think you want it. You make it happen, and then into your kumpad with automatically locking doors and windows when your toilet tests you positive for COVID 2025. By the way, is there something going around where you're at right now? There's been some nasty shit going around here, man. What the fuck did they do now?
Including the neo-Nazi Azov battalion. And speaking of which, the other part he's leaving out is that he
never said any of this, right? This is so scummy, man. Journalism.
He has welcomed the Azov battalion as heroes. Here he is meeting with some Azov battalion members holding up their flag. And so for him to blame them for the breakdown of peace in Ukraine is not really fair, because he was on board with their agenda all along, as he's showing right here by meeting with them and showing their flag.
Okay, so because he's standing with some guys holding an Azov flag, that means he agrees with everything that they stand for. Obviously. Of course. I mean, how could you think otherwise?
But it's
I kind of miss him. I kind of miss him with Keir Starmer there. It's like you got a guy with the personality of a filing cabinet
Oh my God, guys! Really, you should be the ones to speak. Anyway, which peace deal are we blaming Boris Johnson for? The 2019, the 20. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. Did Boris Johnson mention the date?
He got elected really as a peacenik. He was out that 2019 he tried to do a deal.
So these are some of the details of the 2019 deal. Notice Boris Johnson is not at the table. Putin and Zelensky met face to face. So at that point in time, Putin was willing to meet with Zelensky face to face. Zelensky to this day is willing to meet with Putin face to face. Putin isn't. Who's the more difficult party to deal with? Okay. Zelensky was downbeat, saying little had been achieved at the meeting and he had wanted to see more resolved. There was no agreement. The negotiations were brokered by the leaders of France and Germany, not anybody from the UK, Britain. They follow a big prisoner swap and the withdrawal of Ukraine military force from 3 key areas on the front line. What was agreed? In a written statement, the countries agreed to the release of prisoners. The two sides also pledged to disengage military forces in 3 additional regions of Ukraine, without specifying which regions would be affected. They pledged to disengage military forces. Okay? What does this say? So, Ukraine withdrew military forces from key areas of the front line. Yeah? Both countries pledged to disengage military forces in 3 additional regions. So Ukraine is making more concessions. They withdrew forces, Russia did not. And they agreed to withdraw more forces, both sides, right? They pledged to do that. Additional talks will be held in 4 months. President Zelensky said that the blah, blah, blah. But Russia and Ukraine continue to disagree on issues such as the withdrawal of Russian-backed troops. Ukraine withdrew some troops. They both pledged to withdraw more troops. Russia doesn't want to withdraw any troops. Putin also called for a change in Ukraine's constitution. He wants to change the Ukraine constitution, right? He wants to be the dictator of Ukraine. To give special status to the Donbass region, which is held by the rebels, right? Russian paramilitary forces. Let's just call them what they are. Russian proxies, right? I mean, we'll hear all this shit about Victoria Nuland and a sponsored coup, which is like half truths at best, right? But then when Russians send in, sponsor, fund, equip, command these so-called separatist forces, right? Militants in Ukrainian regions, that's cool, right? Like, okay, way to be fair and unbalanced, you know what I mean? But they speak Russian. Well, I mean, shit. Half of Texas speaks Mexican. So, how about a referendum, guys? Idiots. Zelensky told reporters that Ukraine would not make any territorial concessions in exchange for peace, right? We're not giving up land. We can have a ceasefire, but I'm not going to put it in writing that this is yours now. You stole it. Well, he's just supposed to roll over and let Putin rewrite the constitution. And if he doesn't, he's unreasonable, right? Then there was that 2021 deal that Putin proposed. Well, he had a list of demands after he amassed 150, 200,000, something like that, military forces, soldiers on the Russian-Ukrainian border. Belarusian too, I think. Yeah? So he's like, I'm about to invade unless, and then he proposes what? The 8-point draft treaty was, and Boris Johnson was not involved in this. Ignoring Russia's demands would, its interest would lead to a military response, right? So he's blackmailing them. He's threatening them. Do what I say, or I'm going to invade, right? This is great Russian diplomacy I keep hearing so much about. Putin demanded that the West provide Russia legal guarantees of its security. Aggressive proposals are likely to be rejected in Western capitals. He calls them legal guarantees. That's not what they are. Or legal guarantees of security. That's not what they are. West. This is an attempt to formalize a new Russian sphere of influence over Eastern Europe, right? Putin wants to be a dictator in all over Eastern Europe, right? But Zelensky said no. Oh, so Zelensky is not only the dictator of Ukraine, he's the dictator of Eastern Europe, and he just disagreed because he's like in charge or something? I mean, I don't know how retarded people have to be to believe this shit. The demands spelled out by Moscow in full for the first time were handed over to the US this week. They include a demand that NATO removed any troops or weapons deployed to countries that entered the alliance after 1997. So effectively a withdrawal from NATO of something like 11 countries, right? There's no legal process or no legal precedent on how to do this. So it would have to likely include a voluntary withdrawal of at least or something like 11 countries. Oh, okay. So these 11 countries just agreed to withdraw from NATO, something they fought for so hard for so long in order to be protected from Russia. They were just willing to withdraw, and Zelensky said no. Okay, cool. Got it. They included demand of... Russia also demanded that NATO rule out further expansion, including the accession of Ukraine. Okay, so no Ukraine in NATO. And that it does not hold drills without previous agreement from Russia in Ukraine, Eastern Europe, and Caucasus countries. Okay, so Russia wants to be part of NATO, wants to have a veto in NATO. There's another demand. These proposals are likely to be viewed extremely negatively by NATO. No shit. No, they're wrong. Zelensky stopped the deal. These people agreed. It was Zelensky and Boris Johnson in the shadows, even though he wasn't there, right? They have been warned that Russia is attempting to reestablish a sphere of, they want another Warsaw Pact, basically, little by little. Stoltenberg, NATO head, has already ruled out any agreements denying Ukraine the right to enter military alliance, saying it's up to Ukraine and the 30 NATO countries. It was never going to happen. One country saying no, it's not happening. And there were multiple countries who did not want this. It wasn't in their interest. And Ukraine was at war with Russia. So it wasn't even possible, according to the NATO charter, for them to join NATO. This idea of Ukraine joining NATO, like, that was dead. Maybe 30 years down the line, at some point, eventually, in the distant future, the conversation could have been restarted. But I mean, so long as you had Orban or someone like that in Hungary, Vucic or someone like that in Serbia, whatever the Slovenian, I don't know. Like, it was never in Poland's interest to have Ukraine in NATO. Poland would have vetoed it almost certainly, because as soon as Ukraine goes into NATO, right, Poland is on the front line, and it's basically a declaration of war, official declaration of war, or something like that, against Russia. And now there's pressure for Poland and all of NATO to send troops into Ukraine. And Article 5 gets tested. We get to see what it means actually. And it probably leads to the breakup of NATO. Anyway, The Russia document, we're not done yet, also calls for the two countries to pull back any short or medium-range missile systems out of reach, replacing the previous intermediate. Okay, so Russia was going to promise to do something, and NATO U.S. had to pull some of its nukes. I don't know how far back, right? Russia thought they were just going to dictate to the United States what they get to do, right? And obviously, the president of the United States agreed, and it was Zelensky who stopped the deal. The dictator, because Zelensky is the dictator of the entire world, and poor Russia is just defending themselves from, the evil Ukrainian Nazis that rule over the entire world. This is the logical conclusion of these people's worldview. This is their world. It has to be. Zelensky, he didn't want peace. And there was the 2022 peace proposal that Boris Johnson kiboshed. Boris, it's all his fault. He murdered how many millions of people? How many millions of people is it? Bojo. Not Vladov. Putler. Bojo. Putin's 2022 peace proposal was a blueprint for the destruction of Ukraine. Why didn't Zelensky agree to destroy his country? Does he not want peace? It would have been the same type of peace that China has internally. Peace, they call it. Yeah, but two countries wouldn't be at war officially. No, it would be fucking guerrilla warfare inside of Ukraine, partisan fighting, pogroms, sending Ukrainians to the gulags, Russifying Ukrainian children, murdering dissidents, poisoning, fires everywhere. Like, it would have been civil war in Ukraine. Partisan guerrilla warfare. Peace. They didn't want peace. I mean, straight up. All these retards think that they're geniuses. This is sad. One of the myths and legends surrounding the Russian invasion of Ukraine is the idea that Kiev rejected a reasonable Russian peace deal in the early weeks of the war. In reality, recently obtained documents confirm that the terms offered by the Kremlin in spring 2022 would have left Ukraine partitioned, disarmed, internally isolated, and utterly unable to defend itself against further Russian aggression. In other words, Vladimir Putin's alleged peace proposal was in fact a call for unconditional surrender and a blueprint for the destruction of the Ukrainian state. Documents released this week by Radio Free Europe. Is that why Donald Trump wants to kill this enterprise too? Because they provide inconvenient facts to go against this pro-Russian propaganda that he spills? I'm sorry. Donald Trump does not speak pro-Russian propaganda. What am I saying? His views aren't pro-Russian. His views are Russian. Literally. As Putin's army swept across southern Ukraine and advanced on Kiev, Russian officials listed their conditions to halt the invasion and implement a ceasefire. The resulting draft treaty spells out the unacceptable cost that would have had amounted to Ukraine's capitulation. In terms of territorial concessions, Ukraine was expected to cede Crimea and the Donbass region outright, while also accepting the ongoing occupation of areas under the Russian control until Moscow deemed that its conditions had been fully met. Kiev would have also been forced to grant Russian the status of official language and adopt a range of laws targeting Ukrainian religion. So they were supposed to agree to be Russified and slowly have their own religion. Their church infiltrated by the KGB, FSB, call it whatever the fuck you want to call it, GRU, Satanists, right? And destroyed, Russified. Their church, was going to become an extension, just like the Russian Orthodox Church, the extension of Russian military intelligence. This harked back to the Russification policies of the Soviet and Tsarist empires, right? But no, the Soviet Union was different. The Tsar was different. The Russian Federation is different. This is right now what we're seeing is the last of the Soviets still trying to take Ukraine. That's all these generals, military men, thinkers, think tankers, politicians, a whole bunch of them are from the Soviet system, raised in the Soviets. They're Soviets. And they want to restore the Soviet Union, the Warsaw Pact. I mean, like, you got to be straight up retarded to not understand these basic facts. The most detailed and revealing segment of the draft peace treaty dealt with Ukraine's demilitarization. Russia called for the Ukrainian army to be drastically reduced to a skeleton force of just 50,000 personnel. This was approximately 1/5 of the pre-war total and a tiny fraction of Ukraine's current military, which is believed to number around 1 million soldiers. Meanwhile, tight restrictions were to be imposed on the quantity of armor Ukraine could possess, the types of missiles the country could develop, and the size of the Ukrainian Air Force. The Kremlin's peace plan also obliged Ukraine to renounce its NATO membership. Yeah. They basically had to become Belarus. Probably even worse than Belarus. Far worse than Belarus, actually. Zelensky said no. Right? NATO agreed, or all these European countries agreed to extend their border with aggressive Russia effectively. All these people agreed. They were just waiting for Zelensky to say yes. The dictator of the entire world, sans Russia, refused. So, I just don't know. This is incredible. The types of nonsense people spew. This video is just like full of honesty, total blatant.
It was Ukrainian.
Obvious spin. The guy's just like lying right to your face. I mean, these people are blatantly lying to your face, conflating completely different treaties, misrepresenting what's being said, and no one in the comment section is questioning anything, thinking critically. They're not even asking if this is a real video. Not only if it is, right? It's edited, it's taken out of context, it's misrepresented. There's complete ignorance of Boris Johnson calling Zelensky a reasonable guy, right? He's calling him a reasonable guy, and the interpretation is based on everything that Boris is saying. The interpretation is that he is not a reasonable guy. I mean, it's like there's absolutely what should follow, right? Because this clearly there's discord between what's actually being said in the video and how it's being interpreted, but none of that. Nobody in the comment section wants that rectified. Nobody's asking questions. Wait a minute, what's the full context here, right? Nobody's asking, and this is the kicker and the wrap up of the video. Is this a real video? No, I think it is. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's fair to ask: is this a real video? Is it some AI generated BS? What's going on here, right? This is how easily it is to brainwash people because the masses are zombified, and to boot, they think that they're woke, right? They think that everybody else is brainwashed, and they're like completely in charge. They're critical thinkers. They know what the truth is, and they're just so mad that no one wants to listen to them in their private lives. That reasonable people don't want to deal with these idiots, these emotionally triggered dum-dums that just believe anything that strokes their ego or whatever. They made up their mind as soon as they found out where Ukraine is on the map yesterday. They know everything about the geopolitical situation there, and nobody could tell them otherwise. And they just know what the deal is. This is how genius all these people are, right? Now imagine if it's that easy to manipulate the masses right now. Imagine what's going to happen once we'll have all this AI generated junk out there. And even though there may be some safeguards put in place to where you could identify videos, AI generated videos as exactly that, even short 24 hours later, it doesn't matter because the damage will have been done anyway, and you're going to be able to make these people believe whatever the hell you want them to believe. And they'll never question it because they have zero critical thinking skills. It just doesn't exist. So even though the truth may come out, I mean, the truth is already there. The truth was there since 2019, 2021, 2022, depending on which treaty or proposals we're talking about. It's all out there. It's been out there for years. They have no idea. They're easily manipulated to believe whatever the fuck these people want them to believe. Now, again, imagine that we get all this AI-generated junk out there of all these people saying all these things that all these zombies want to hear. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what trouble we're going to be in? It's already this bad. I keep seeing all these AI-generated videos and photos on Facebook or whatever, and it's like this last one was, for example, a praying mantis that like turned into a flower, right? And all these comments in the comment section, oh wow, what a beautiful animal. It's incredible. Nature's way of camouflaging itself is just beyond belief. So this praying mantis is subjecting itself to bee stings. So yeah, okay, because that enhances its survival. I mean, it's just like what? An owl gives birth to 6 eagles. Wow! I didn't think that was possible. I'm not even joking. This is, people believe this stuff. So, you know, you thought the zombie apocalypse was bad. Gonna be bad. You have no clue. And it's not gonna be people coming to your house with sticks and stones trying to take your ish. No. So long as they keep the internet on, these people will fucking starve to death in front of their screens. That's how capable they are. So no worries about that. But I mean, the things that they're going to be able to put into people's heads and have them believe, that's a whole nother story, man.